My grandparents passed away recently. I followed the guidelines my grandma set up for her final event. Her church, her burial plot, her casket, and the same for my grandpa. I just didn't expect for it to be a joint funeral. I sent out the notifications to friends of theirs and family after the date was set in stone. Their friends all came, so did most of my grandma's church, but no family showed up. I wasn't surprised, I hadn't seen most of them in about 4 years. I had a great time with my grandparents' friends, and then I went back home and cried my heart out. I had been their sole caregiver and I didn't know what to do without them. I had taken care of them for 15 years. It started with little things like lifting heavy things and escalated to needing to change the bed twice a night sometimes. I was empty and started to scroll through my grandpa's Facebook to see pictures he posted before his memory went. I found a group, started about 3 years ago, that was being flooded with activity. When I went poking around, I found out it was my mother who was hosting a funeral at her church and was trying to get final expenses taken care of. I was stunned. Here was the woman I hadn't spoken to since throwing her out of the house for stealing jewelry and upsetting Grandma terribly by using her Alzheimer's against her. How could you forget my birthday? You promised to give me this. I went to the funeral my mother had planned and listened to the pastor, and then my mother got up to talk. She told everyone how hard it was taking care of them, and something inside me roared to life. I don't remember everything I said, but it did include that she didn't pay for anything for them, not their caskets, not their burial plots, not their cremation, nothing. I told everyone I put them to rest at the funeral Grandma planned herself 4 days prior. I said she'd never paid for any of their care or even seen them for 4 years. I was asked to leave and drove home. Later, a cousin asked me if what I said was true, and when I said it was and I could provide proof, they explained my mother had been taking funds from the family for years to pay for their care at a facility because they had outlived their insurance policy. They also explained I got a lot of people in trouble because somewhere in the speech I shouted I had done it all alone for years without any help. A lot of family members used my grandparents as an excuse to get out of work and had invited their co-workers to the funeral. By hearing my outburst, they were now in trouble for lying as for the reasons to leave work or miss days. She then went on to ask me about the inheritance and when that would be passed out. I told her that if anyone had earned the inheritance, it had already been taken care of. I thought I was in the right, but now I'm doubting myself after so many cousins and family members are calling to tell me I handled it really poorly. Did I handle this badly? Everyone's telling me I did. Comment 1. NTA. Hire a probate attorney. ASAP. If they left anything at all behind, hire a probate attorney. And I mean anything at all. Having trouble accessing a bank account? That's because your power of attorney, if you had one, is void now that they are gone. Some banks are nice, some require probate. They had a house? Probate. Find the wills. If they had things like a house and bank accounts you can no longer access and no wills, the best you can do is get an attorney, or your mother can and will try to take everything as a direct heir. Fuck with her plans. Search NAILA.org, National Association of Elder Law Attorneys, to find someone in your area to help you. I'm so sorry for your loss. You have enough on your plate. Get an attorney to lighten the load. Just call. You'll eventually find someone like me who will be sad with you and know everything you need to do. It gets better, I promise. Comment 2. NTA. Your fury is understandable, and now everyone knows exactly what the situation was. Any relatives who get hit by this, be it their reputations or their employment, are suffering the consequences of their own terrible actions, not yours. I see that you own the properties and business, which is good. I recommend that you change the locks ASAP just to be sure that none of your self-serving relatives have a sneaky key they can use to help themselves to any items. I, 25M, am married to my wife, Sasha, 28F. She comes from a pretty wealthy background while I decidedly do not. My dad left before I was born and my mum died when I was 11. I've mostly gotten over it, as much as one can get over something like that. However, I'm still sensitive on any so-called jokes on that. I graduated summa cum laude and went straight into investment banking. I met my wife when I was 23 and fresh into it, but after 3 years I earn pretty well. My wife is a lawyer. Now I love my wife and she loves me, obviously, but her family hates me. Like from the depths of their souls, hates me. I've been called a gold digger, a low life and a few more vague insults on my table manners. I went to a party with her the other day, one of those fancy schmancy things where everyone drinks champagne and complains about this, that and the other, talking about, oh, we spent so much money on renovations, gasp. And I got the usual mild comments from wife's family and close friends on where my wife picked me up from. Lacey, I don't think, knew about my family history before. We were talking about dads, don't ask me why, and I got a question on what my dad did. I said I didn't know, never met the guy. Lacey made this kind of exaggerated gasp and went, ooh, well, we all know why you're with her, my wife, then don't we? I acted all confused and she got flustered, and just kept going with, well, you know. My wife tried to move the conversation along, but by this point I wasn't letting it go. I kept pushing, and pushing until Lacey finally said, well, you two don't exactly have the same finances, do you? And then responded with, you're right. I make quite some more. Lacey by this point was too embarrassed to keep going. I'd kind of ruined the vibe, but the night continued. This isn't the kind of event you walk away from. We went home, which was when shit genuinely went down. She told me it was crazy of me to keep pushing on that point and turn one comment into one of the most embarrassing moments of her life, and now everyone in her circle must think she's some kind of failure to earn so much less than her husband, and I'd ruined everything. But it's not like I lied. I'm just tired of being treated like shit in her circle. My wife is upset though, and I do care about her, so I need to know. Comment 1. Honestly, you're not, NTA, but your wife is. If this is her circle, she should have stopped that, Lacey, immediately. People think that you're a gold digger because your wife lets them think about it. She's more worried about what people would think about her earnings than people talking bad about you. Comment 2. NTA, but I wonder whether you should rethink your entire marriage. It sounds like not only does your wife's family treat you badly, but she allows it to keep happening, which is nearly as bad. Why doesn't she care about / respect you enough to put a stop to the constant trashing? She's embarrassed that people know you earn more than she does, but she's not angered by her family and close friends treating you like dirt? That's just not okay. Comment 3. NTA. People from wealthy backgrounds sometimes don't understand that at some point someone actually needs to earn money. They make assumptions based on inherited wealth, because the prospect of earning their way through the world is alien. As soon as you mentioned being an investment banker, most people would know instantly that you're probably doing fine financially. But the investment banker who makes $1 million a year is still poor compared to the person whose wealth they are managing. Only an out-of-touch idiot would make presumptions based on that, though. My fiancé moved in with me 5 months ago. I upgraded us to a 2-BDR apartment under the impression that she'd find a job and start paying a portion of rent. It's been 5 months and she hasn't secured a job because she's picky and won't work retail, grocery store, fast food, or basically anything involving customer service. She does DoorDash, but only if I'm with her for safety. Defeats the purpose since my job pays much more than what she could possibly get from DoorDash. There's a concert coming up that she really wants to go to, but she doesn't have money for tickets. The tickets are $490, which I can afford, but I don't want to for a couple reasons. She hasn't gotten a job and it feels like she isn't being serious about getting one. I now pay almost 50% more rent for our new apartment. We recently procured some medical bills, both of us had a visit to the hospital recently, now we have $1,500 of medical debt. She's all up in arms about this now, blaming me that she'll miss the last performance of this artist. All I told her was I can't really afford to pay for those tickets. We have debt I'm trying to get us out of, and I want to continue saving for a house with what's left of my income. Her response was that she'd pay me back when she gets a job, but I just said I can't afford it, sorry. Edit, didn't expect this to blow up. So many comments. I'm seeing a general consensus to either break up, kick her out, or give her a deadline. I will consider these, and I definitely see how this is a major red flag now. Something I forgot to mention is she lived in another state before moving in with me. So she had to quit her job. She's never had an issue with holding a job, but getting one seems to be the problem here, especially with how picky she is. Comment 1. NTA Unless she has a specific deadline she's working towards to get a job, then getting a job is always when I get a job. Personally, for someone who is just a girlfriend/boyfriend, I would not pay anything towards her expenses. Not her medical debts or anything, certainly not for fun money. They are an independent adult responsible for themselves, and I am not their ATM. Now, she's a fiancé, which is a bit different, but she's telling you loud and clear what she expects your role in marriage to be like. If you don't want that role or cannot afford it, then you need to think about what your limits as a partner are and have a talk with her about it. Better to the heavy talk and decision making before marriage. Comment 2. How old is she? She sounds super immature. Sometimes you have to suck it up and work a job that you don't like. Boo freaking who? Most people start out working not ideal jobs. She needs to get over it. Is she even doing anything to find a better job? Is she taking any classes, working on any certifications? Because it doesn't sound like it. If she's just sitting around waiting for her dream job to fall in her lap, it won't happen. OP, I would sit her down and just explain to her that finances are tight, and if she wants to have fun money, she needs a job. No job means no money, and there are bigger priorities than a concert. If she wanted to go so bad, she could have gotten a job months ago and easily saved the money for it. NTA. I'm married to a widower. We've been married for 4 years, together for 6, and known each other for 8. We met at a grief support group. I lost my sister to cancer around the same time he lost his late wife Tasha. We bonded and supported each other, and our relationship happened slowly over the 2 years of being friends. One thing I have always known is his love for Tasha has never faded. He never wants it to fade. He misses her every single day, so do his children, my stepchildren. He struggles with the idea of finding someone else. Not least of all because his family started pushing 13 months after his loss. In time he wanted this himself and we fell in love. But I have always known there would be no us without his loss. I was never jealous or insecure of that. I love his love for Tasha. It tells me how amazing he is as a person. It's also good for his kids to see the love he still holds for their mom. My sister's widower remarried after 6 months and has erased my sister with their children. He stopped me having a relationship with them too, and I hate it. The kids being good with us was the most important thing to us when we became something more. The only condition they had to their support was their mom. They didn't want her to be forgotten. They didn't want my husband to stop talking about her or for her photos to disappear from the house. Some came down. But they're still in the house, just not on the walls, and there are still photos of her around. It works. I tell my daughter, too, and will tell my son I'm pregnant with, that she's their big sibling's mom and daddy's late wife. They'll know who she is and what she means to our family. But my husband's parents and sister don't like that Tasha is still very much loved and kept alive. They didn't like her. They didn't approve of their son/brother marrying at 20 and loving someone who came from a very unfavorable family. They judged Tasha for it harshly. They think I'm far better. So they expected me to replace Tasha. They were especially horrified that my husband keeps a photo of Tasha in his wallet and on his desk at work. There are also photos of me in both. Recently they brought this up with me and told me I should forbid my husband from doing this. They said it is horribly disrespectful to me and it has prevented my husband's teenage children from truly embracing me as their mother. They told me to march right up to him in front of everyone and to tell him that he cannot keep photos of his dead wife anymore. It bothered me so much that they were so callous about it. I told them not to use me in their sick and twisted scheme to erase Tasha because I wanted no part of it. They focused on the sick and twisted aspect. And they are saying I called them sick and twisted and accused me of overreacting to their support. My husband was furious with them when he heard and told them to be thankful his kids hadn't heard them. Comment 1, NTA, it is sick and twisted. I would go so far to say as it ultimately shows a complete lack of love for their son. Instead of trusting him to do what is right for himself, they prefer that he conform to some fucked up standard. At best their love is conditional. Your husband needs to have a stern talk with them in which he makes it clear that if they don't cut the crap and accept how he chooses to live and love, they will end up with a far less important role in his life. This is not threat, but a natural outcome of the distance their actions will create. OP comment. And their grandchildren. Because the grandchildren they say they love so much are half of the woman they're trying to erase. She carried them and gave birth to them. She is a huge part of them. So how she can try to so forcefully erase her is beyond me.